I very often read novels because I might have seen a film adaptation, is usually my gateway in. I'm not a great reader of novels.
The problem for the novel is that people are losing the capacity to engage with the structures and modes in which it's possible to engage with fiction.
I think I tend to, when I read a book, I'm tending to think cinematically, and maybe everybody does. And obviously, the book, we all conjure up our personal images.
In a way, you can think about our engagement with film as being a colossal interleaving of all of our perceptual systems with this technology. Yeah? And the evidence of this interleaving is in the ubiquity of the screen in contemporary culture.
Here it's the other way around. I've read the text of which there is no adaptation, so to speak.
We are the people of film. It's almost as if we've attempted to create some kind of full motion replication of all of the myriads of stills that we're all processing all the time.
But because I think cinematically, I automatically start putting it together. Oh, I wonder how good a movie this will make. So
literary fiction's over too. But literary fiction survived for quite a long while because of film. Literary fiction was the Greece to film's Rome. They needed us. They gave us gigs in Hollywood.
And one thing that occurred to me, I was thinking, well, this might make a great movie. And then I think, how on earth do you do justice to the language in the book in a movie? And then I thought, well, maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe really the written word is the only medium for this.
Don't believe they've made a book of your film till you rent the video. But I don't resent film. And now it's dying. I feel sorry for film.
The first of my books was made into a film was The Mouse and His Child. It was made into an animated feature by DeFaria, Lockhart, Sanrio. And they took perfectly good dialogue that I'd written, and they replaced it with less good dialogue that somebody else wrote.
It's a movie for the young, and the young in heart. The Mouse and His Child. Sheer delight on the screen. Winner of the Best Picture Award at the Children's Film Festival. The Mouse and His Child is destined to stand beside Pinocchio and The Wizard of Oz as a children's classic, says the American Center of Films for Children.
You want to be self-winding?
We do indeed.
The Mouse and His Child, rated G.
They come at you and they say, hey, whoa, wow, we think your book is terrific, and, you know, grovel, grovel, what a nice thing, and, you know, let us give you money for it. And I said, fine, give me the money, take the book. And then they say, now what we need to do is make it a little more accessible and tighten it up dramatically so that it's shit.
You know, from what your original question was in terms of the documentary, I don't think it would work as a cinema piece because it's all about language, isn't it? You know, not something, a simple narrative that film tends to work best with simple narratives. So yeah, no, we'll give that a go, Peter. It would be interesting to see what Mr. Self said.
I think a film would give you, if you like, 1/3 of the book in terms of the book's impact. A film would be a bit like the versions of Cormac McCarthy's The Road or something like that. You know, the sort of barbarism of post-apocalyptic scene. Yes, you could do that. And I've also gathered that there are a couple of stage adaptations that have been done.
We discovered pretty quickly that it's not as hard as you might think it would be to adapt the language to the stage, partly because the language, when spoken aloud, it loses layers of meaning.
And I could see, yes, that gets part of it. What it doesn't get is exactly what the language does. There's something that only the book can do.
It's the challenge of trying to take the opportunity of hearing Ridley's voice, but also having the text scrolling across the screen so you could see the words to capture some of the essence of that whilst hearing him read it out.
I don't have nothing, only words to put down on paper. It's so hard.
Sometimes there's more in the empty paper nor there is when you get the writing down on it. You try to word the big things, and they turn their backs on you. Yet you'll see standing stones, and their backs will talk to you. The living stone will always have the living wood in it. I know that, with the heart of the child in it, which that heart of the child is in that same and very thing what lives inside us, and a fear of being birthed. The wood becomes stone in the womb of her what has her womb in Cambry. That place under the ground where I were, it were a wood of stone. It was stone trees growing under the ground. Stone branches holding up the overhead and grow into it. Stone branches under a stone sky. A stone wood under the ground. The heart of the wood in the heart of the stone in the womb of her what has her womb in Cambry. Feeling the carving under my hands, it were like shallow runnels cut in the stone. The runnels come down straight and parallel one to the other. Then they zig it, then they zag it, then they gone straight again. Running my hand over the straight and over the zigzag, feeling how other hands done the same thing time back, way back.
And that was something that was very important to me right from the beginning. I don't know how successful that was,
but obviously, you know, sustaining that for an entire film, that would be too much. That would just be then didactic.
And I think that's quite an important thing, that you can visualize and convey something of the narrative, but by separating the story from the medium in which it's told, the medium is the message, as somebody put it.
Marshall McLuhan, I believe.
I believe so, yes, when I was a lad.
The medium is the message. Would you like to illuminate that?
I think it is more satisfactory to say that any medium, be it radio or be it wheel, tends to create a completely new human environment.
Yeah.
Marshall McLuhan, who is perhaps the most percipient theorist of the emergent communications landscape, in which he coined the expression, and the medium is the message, was published in 1959. Yet if you trouble to read it, it reads as fresh as paint. It reads as fresh as the paint on your computer. That's how fresh it reads. It doesn't take very long before you realize that alterations in the technology have had profound effects on the kind of literary forms that people have been engaged with.
I mean, the minute you said to me, you know, what do I think about an adaptation of Riddley Walker, I start thinking, well, how would I do it? And I start thinking, well, yeah, make a great film if you like that sort of thing. I mean, the prime thing it does have, it seems to me, is that it's fundamentally a picaresque. It is a kind of journey with incidents along the way. And definitely, you could definitely make a film of it. Whether you'd get anybody to back it is another question.
The next time it happened was with Turtle Diary. So I'm not an idiot. I know that if the name of the screenwriter is Harold Pinter, they got a good chance of getting money to make the film. And the same thing with Glenda Jackson and Ben Kingsley. So I said, fine. So then Pinter took out the Hoban dialogue and stuck in Pinter's shtick. And that was that. Made a deeply shallow film. And there I was.
These two people are about to make a decision that will change their lives. Winners Glenda Jackson and Ben Kingsley in a screenplay by Harold Pinter, Turtle Diary. Two ordinary people, one extraordinary adventure.
I think he said it took 5 years of his struggling with it. It's just kind of how poetic at times it is with Riddley Walker, because he's got a lovely eye for simile at times, and just the repetition is a basic poetic technique, isn't it? You know, the heart of the wood, the heart of the stone, the heart of the wood. And so often it comes down to rhymes as well, which again, you think, well, they're not the most sophisticated forms of language, but that's what this novel is taking us through this stage.
Horny boy rang widow's bell, stole his father's ham as well, burnt his arse and forked a stone, done it over, broke a bone, out a good shore, that is way, scratched Sam's itch for number 8, gone to centre next to sea, Cambry coming 3 times 3.
There's that moment where they discover, I think it's Good Parley reads the contemporary version of the St. Eustace story, and they haven't really got a clue what it's saying. You know, this is the original text from which their mangled version almost has evolved, but they just can't work it out. You know.
Well, as soon as I began to read it, I had to say, I don't even know half these words. What's a legend? How do you say a governor S with a little T? Good Parley said,
I can explain the most of it to you. Some parts is easier to work it out than others. There's bits of it we'll never know for certain just what they mean. What this writing is, it's about some kind of picture or diagram which we don't have this picture, all we have is the writing. Probably this picture been some kind of secret thing because there's here writing. I don't mean the writing you're holding in your hand. I mean the writing time way back when I wrote the same as. It's certainly secret. It's blipful. It ain't just only what it seems to be, it's the sign and follower of something else. A legend. AD means all done. 120 years all done. They're saying that same way you've done this picture of 120. No, never got it finished till 1480. It says here, well, you know what? There ain't no picture could take 30 and 60 years to do. These were year numbers. It's about something else we may never know about.
Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome take off from Riddley Walker?
Well, it's a rip-off of some Riddley Walker stuff, and I guess, no, I didn't tell you lot, but I was telling other people that I was in Australia, I think it was 1986, where I was invited to the Adelaide Festival of the Arts, and I did some readings there. And having seen Mad Max 2, I thought that George Miller, the director, would be a good guy to direct Riddley Walker, because he seemed to have a real good feel for the choreography of figures in a landscape. So somebody arranged for me to meet him, and he took me out to dinner very nicely with his scriptwriter, and I gave him a copy of Riddley Walker, and said I hoped he would give some thought to making a film of it, and I never heard from him again. And then the next thing, I began to get letters from people, have you seen Mad Max 3? And you got ripped off, did they give you credit, did they give you money? And they didn't give me credit, they gave me money. But I talked to my agent about it, and he said, well, what it is that obviously this was a major influence, but that's all it is. It is not enough to sue him for. And so that's how it was. No. I hope he lies awake at night and thinks about it, but I don't think he does.
Okay, my name is Russell Hoban. I'm the youngest son of Russell Hoban. Book Riddley Walker is dedicated to me, and it is probably my favorite book of his. My father did make a theatre adaptation. In a stage version, the issue that's potentially problematic for a film, namely that an element of the language is lost, also applies. So, in that sense, he was willing to take that on board. He did like the idea of a film being made of it. I suppose he didn't mind too much if the textual dimension of the language was lost. I think it depends just what one expects from an adaptation.
A good cinematographer and production designer would just have such a field day trying to create this sense of a kind of, of the ruins of our own civilization, and it's like sort of contemporaneous attempts to do that, the height of the Cold War, even a film as odd as The Bed-Sitting Room kind of links that kind of tradition of the post-apocalyptic, the absurd.
Yes, sir. In which particular I should be obliged to stop somewhere, preferably a street.
You can't stop here, sir.
Well, where can I stop?
You can't stop anywhere, sir, as you very well know. We don't want to stay in one place long enough for the enemy to have another chance at us, do we, sir? Not until our preemptive strike is launched, do we, sir? Do we, sir?
Well, have we not struck back? Has England not? Should have struck back 3 years ago, if not before.
I expect we did, sir. These things take time.
The post-apocalyptic to become traditional English letters of the absurd. I mean, you look at the bed sitting room, it seems very much to have affinities with Beckett's Happy Days or, you know, Waiting for Godot. It seems, and is it so much that we need evidence in the kind of production design of the kind of detritus of this blown up civilization, or in a way do we just need its absence? Is that sufficient? You know, could you imagine it as being something like, you know, Lars von Trier's Dogville, where it's kind of played in an empty environment in some way and done entirely through the language? And that brings you back to the point, well, if the production design was good and really suggested this post-apocalyptic world, and the dialogue kind of worked, you were able to get the essence of kind of Ridley speak, then in a sense, you know, it's legion. There could be many different possible films of Riddley Walker.
But it did, of course, have this mysterious colony of people and all these children, and then a kind of nostalgia, but without the knowledge that you need for normal nostalgia. It's like, oh, we have these artifacts, but like, what are they for?
Remember this? Remember this? Remember this? Remember this? Remember this?
Our next movie is named The Name of the Rose, and it's based on the best-selling novel about a series of strange events in a 14th century monastery in Italy. All those scholarly monks, but where are their books? The Name of the Rose is an awesome achievement just in the way the film looks. The old monastery on the mountaintop, all filled with gloomy cells and cellars and labyrinths, is one of the most interesting sets I've seen in a movie in a long time. Well, in Quest for Fire, a tribe has lost its most precious possession, which is fire, and 3 men have gone on a desperate search to try to steal fire from another tribe. And the language in the film was created by Anthony Burgess, the novelist. We can't understand the words, but we can understand the words. We can understand everything that's going on in the film. I love the expression on the actor's face, the wonder that he sees in this lesson that's being taught to him. And
no, but it was seriously. I mean, we got torn apart by the New York critics because I suggested it was less a Python film and more of an homage to Bruegel and Bosch. And they were so offended by the fact that, you know, those great painters were actually put on the screen. Everything you see there is either from Bruegel or Bosch, almost entirely. You know, Warren Mitchell's ass, straight out of one. Severed feet out of Bosch. Yeah, it's all there. Yeah.
Hired to be a God is the 6th and final film from a Russian director called Alexei German. Shooting it took 6 years, The shoot was apparently completely deranged and chaotic. German actually died in 2013 before he'd finished the edit. He was almost done, but it was kind of left this kind of unfinished project. His wife and son both collaborated on finishing off the edit. I'm more and more convinced that this is a serious kind of masterwork. This is a very, very important film. So you have this world that is basically trapped in this kind of perpetual feast of filth and mud and slime and snot and entrails all over the place. And it's basically anti-intellectual purges have started in the university city of Arkanar, now spreading around the planet. German's camera kind of introduces you to the streets of Arkanar, which are totally revolting. I mean, the most disgusting kind of, think Monty Python and the Holy Grail directed by Bruegel.
Years in the making, 3 hours long, completed after the death of its director, Alexei Herman. It's set on a teeming, rancid planet on which art and thought are quelled. A bird almost touches the lens, then this striking composition, the slit of the hat, not an ounce of free space, then a naked foot, then a boot, and the greyness and the dirt. And almost white now. This umbrella out of the mist, the movie frame constantly invaded. Hard to Be God is a medieval Mad Max in the mud. It pushed film as far as it could go. Few artworks of the 21st century were more dense, confusing, or sensory.
And this is a society condemned to just basically spiral into hell as well. You know, this is not a film that has a conventional plot at all. It's basically the camera gliding and stumbling through these enormous tableaux of all kinds of strange human activity. You know, it's like an encounter with this forbidden artifact. It's almost as if the film shouldn't exist.
I mean, we always talk about this kind of interchangeability between the two media as if it were some books that naturally would adapt better as films than others. And there's always way too much in a novel for a film anyway, or at any rate, you know, the descriptive prose is besides the point. That's what you do with a mise-en-scène. And narrative can be quite slim. You know, you don't really need that much narrative. You know, the problem for film adaptation, it always strikes me is, you know, is there the will there to do it? And more than the novel form, you know, is the zeitgeist going to be receptive to it in some way?
He were crooked, he were bad stock, he were not both sides the same, which the knowing brung the doing, and the doing brung the shame. Shine a pax and get the pole, when the hardship comes out of his hole. Seed of the little seed of the wild, seed of the burning his heart of the child. Riddley Walker's bent a show, Riddley Walker's on the go. Don't go Riddley Walker's track, drop John's riding on his back. Drop John's riding on his back. Drop John's riding on